What's up, rockers?
Hey, I'm Kaz.
And I'm Shane. Welcome to another episode of For the Record with Kaz and Shay. Kaz, we're back on Zoom again. Who's our guest? I can see him, but you tell him.
This is a guy that I would call a musician's musician. This guy is just world-class guitarist, frontman, just knows everything about music.
Okay.
The legendary Andrew McKeag.
Andrew McKeag. Thank you for joining us, Andrew.
You're welcome. Thanks for the kind words.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here they are.
I've always admired your ability to wear hats. That's the first thing. I want to get that right off the bat. You look good in that little newsboy cap.
Thanks. It was a last minute addition when I realized my bald spot was showing.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Yeah. And so where are we reaching? Where are you coming from? Beautiful San Diego, California?
Yeah, we live north of San Diego in a little place called Poway, which is kind of like, I don't know. For you guys, it would be like, I don't know. What's a tiny
Lacey,
Enumclaw or something like that?
Yeah. Let's go more up north. But for many of these people that don't know Andrew, he has played in many bands. Uncle Joe's Big Old Driver, Hard Roller, Huge Spacebird. I mean, the list goes on. The Andrew McKeag Band, the Presidents of the United States of America. We're going to talk a lot. We're going to reel it all the way back to the beginning, though. You know, you're originally from Portland, correct? Or
I was born in Seattle, and then I grew up kind of bouncing back and forth between Portland and Seattle.
And then at a young age, and I mean, obviously looking at all the guitars behind you, that is your passion. So when about did you kind of first get introduced to the whole music thing? Was it like something in the household, or was it something you just wanted to pick up on your own?
My mother was sort of naturally talented. She could sit down and play or paint or do whatever. She was just really sort of all right brain. And then but we didn't really grow up with her. My stepmother, though, she could play every instrument under the sun. So we were kind of surrounded as kids with pianos and guitars and hammered dulcimers and weird hippie stuff, and it was just kind of around. And so she was into show tunes and musicals, and had this whole sort of choir thespian-y kind of aspect to her personality. And so that coupled with me just loving FM radio, there was a lot of stuff to try out around the house. So I just kind of started doing it from pretty young age. I started on piano and then went trumpet and then guitar.
Yeah, it's a pretty common theme on guests that we've had on the interview. Most of them, you know, have some strong influence, music in the home, and that's amazing. When did you really get into guitar, though? It sounded like you played some other instruments before. When did you like laser focus in on being a guitar god?
You know what it was? I put it to this, like piano was cool, but I always wanted to play ragtime piano, which is kind of this turn of the century, pre-blues kind of stuff. Hold on, let me let the dog out. He's scratching on the door.
Well, now we know who let the dogs out. Andrew let the dogs out.
Andrew. Yeah, so I was really into ragtime and Scott Joplin and all that stuff, and my stepmother, who was really into lessons and stuff for everything, she put me with this really strict German piano teacher who didn't want me to play that stuff. And so I would just barely practice enough to like learn the shit I was supposed to learn with her. And then I would learn all these Scott Joplin stuff on the side. And at some point I was like, well, this sucks because I don't want to do all of the classical piano stuff they want me to do. And we had this dude from Portland called Thera Memory, who was this trumpet player. He showed up at our school to do like an assembly. I saw him play, and I was like, that's what I want to do, because he was doing all sort of Dixieland jazz stuff, and I was like, that looks really fun. So then I got a trumpet and said, fuck piano, and then she put me in trumpet lessons with this classical trumpet player from the Oregon Symphony. So then I was learning classical trumpet, and I didn't want to learn that. And so then it was like there's always, and so once I got to guitar, I was like, okay, I got a classical guitar, cheap one, free, first. And then I just was like, fuck this. She tried to put me in lessons. I was just not having it. I wasn't going to learn all the goofy shit. I just wanted to play rock and roll. So I kind of lucked out. Once I got a hold of the guitar, then nobody could tell me what to do anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Right. You know, as a guitar, like what were everyone's like obviously influenced by Hendrix, but what were some of your like guitar heroes that you really got influenced by?
I think some of the first stuff I learned was The Who. For some reason, I got a chord book that was all of Tommy. And I think somebody actually might have mimeographed it for me or something, because I remember it was like this loose leaf pile of these chord books. And so I started learning. I knew a few chords, and my stepmother showed me a few things. But being able to play songs I heard on the radio was like the greatest feeling ever. And so I think it was like learning those Who songs first, and then, you know, you kind of go through, right, all that same stuff, the Hendrix, and I love Ted Nugent and Aerosmith and just all the 70s rock stuff that I heard on the radio, because we lived kind of on a farm and didn't have a lot of money, so I wasn't buying a lot of records. I was mostly just listening to whatever came on KGON in Portland, and then KSW in Seattle. So yeah, just kind of figuring out tunes off the radio and off a few records. For me, it was like the Beatles, it was Hendrix, it was a lot of Hendrix. Probably when I was 13, that was predominantly what I was listening to.
And then when did you feel like you were good enough to, like, I'm going to play in a band, I'm going to get, you know, when did that happen?
Well, my brother played drums, and he's 2 years younger than me, so he picked up the drums. I was playing guitar, and we, like I said, we lived out in the middle of nowhere, so we could make as much noise as we wanted. So the two of us played together initially, and it wasn't until, you know, a little later that I met some dudes in junior high or whatever, and we started playing music together.
And did you start singing at that time too?
Yeah, off and on. We always tried to find singers. But you know, the problem with the singer is then you have to deal with a singer.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
LSD.
Yeah.
Lead singer disease.
Yeah. So it was a combination, and sometimes we didn't have a singer at all. You know, we would just play whatever jams with no vocals. But I think in 8th or 9th grade, it was, you know, all the new wave hits of the day were getting played and at parties, and we had a singer and all that stuff, but it was all covers.
Nice. And so, you know, you grow up, and then at what point you headed down to San Diego, or was that when?
Yeah, when I was 18, everybody was going to college, and I wasn't going to go to college, so I moved to California with a friend of mine who I grew up with.
And that's where you guys had quite the following as Uncle Joe's Big Old Driver down in San Diego.
Yeah, that started quite a bit later, but yeah, for sure. That was, you know, I think I moved in 88. I moved to California, and then Uncle Joe started in 91 or 2 or something like that.
Okay. Because I come about, I'm trying to think of the, like, you know, like first times I had seen you live, there was like the Black Panties, and then you and Ron used to play in a band. What was it? America, UK? You guys were going to start. And
for about 5 minutes.
Yeah. Exactly.
That was a funny name.
Yeah. But, you know, I mean, I've seen you in so many different variations of your game. And then, like, you know, when you're going away party, that put it all on display. You had like a representative of each of your band play for your going away party before you moved out of Seattle to San Diego. But, so coming on up, you're in Seattle, and you're kind of, like I said earlier in the show, you're like that musician's musician. Everybody knows you. Everyone respects you. Everybody talks about you. I was just talking with Ken from the Bronx, and he couldn't say enough good about you, you know? And it's like...
Oh, dude, we've known each other for so long, too. He was... Yeah, because he was in the Dragons, and we did tons of shows with the Dragons with Uncle Joe.
Yeah. small world. But like I say, yeah, everyone knows you, and you know the business well.
I don't know. I guess it's just a willingness to work in any capacity within it. You know, so whether you're on the stage or on the side of the stage or behind the stage or whatever, setting up the stage.
Yeah.
I just lost my train of thought. I just want to watch you guys talk because you guys know each other so well. This is great.
I had met you like watching some of those early 70 proof shows and stuff, and then, the big thing that you become whatever the title of the get bassist or bass guitarist for the President of the United States of America. You know, and it's kind of been a really cool time after, they reunited. It was just cool seeing.
Yeah. Let's talk about how that came about. How did that? I mean, a legendary band in Seattle, and those.
Yeah, I don't know. We were all just friends, and I sort of, from a distance, watched the president's rise and then break up, and then they got back together in 2003, and I knew they'd made a new record. And one night at the Crocodile, Jason Finn said, the drummer says, hey, it was at the end of the show. It was a Black Panties gig, I think, when we played with Zen Gorilla or something. And I was at the back bar, and Finn bought me a drink and said, hey, would it turn your stomach to play some President's shows? And I was like, you going to add a second guitar player or what? Because I knew they'd made a record, so I thought maybe they put a bunch of overdubs on it, and they maybe wanted, somebody to fill out the sound or something. And he goes, no, you'd be Dave. And I was like, it just seemed so weird to me because I couldn't think of that band as anything other than those three guys. And it was so unique with the strings and the tunings, and it was so I'm a regular rock and roll guitar player, really a Luddite at best, and just meat and potatoes, simple shit. And that just seemed incredibly difficult and strange to me. And while I loved those dudes, I could not imagine myself in that band. And I remember just I was like, what about the weird tuning thing? And he goes, well, we'd like you to try it, but the songs can be done. Chris says the songs can be done, in standard tuning if that's easier. And so I went home with this strange idea of this weird conversation, and then the next morning I was telling my wife about it. I was getting ready to go to work or something, and I was like, Finn said the weirdest shit to me last night. He said, and I told her, and she goes, oh, well, you should do it. And I was like, it just doesn't seem like a real thing. I don't know how I would do it. But anyway, I came home that night, I think, and I just took some strings off of a guitar, and I started monkeying around, listening to the records with the intention of actually trying to figure out how to play in this weird tuning and play these songs. And I was like, oh, I guess I kind of get little bits and pieces of it, but it was really weird. And then we just had a bunch of conversations, me and Chris and Jason. And then also I went over to Dave's place, and he showed me how to play all the shit. And so he showed me what the fingerings were, what the tuning was. He gave me his guitar that was already set up as a 3-string, because you do kind of have to change them a little bit to make them work. And yeah, that's kind of how that it was just hilarious, because they were going to do 2 versions of the band. It was going to be the Andrew version of the band that went out and did the Rhodes Slog stuff, and then there was going to be the Dave version of the band, which did the TV, local gigs, that kind of stuff. And that was the original idea, was Dave did, with his work schedule and family schedule and stuff, it just touring didn't appeal to him. So I was going to do the crappy part, and he was going to do the easy part.
And so for a non-guitar playing loser like me, it's not just the amount of strings. Aren't there a bunch of different weights that were, like some of the string was like a bass string or
yeah, a little bit. So like this, this is the guitar I tried to use at first. So this one, 6 strings, you take, in order to do the get bass thing, you take all the strings off and you move the fattest, lowest ones down one. so there's a little more space on the neck, and then you just have to intonate that string, and then it's tuned C sharp, G sharp, C sharp. So it's like an open, it's like a drop D tuning, but it's C sharp. So it's a half step lower than that, which for a non-guitar player won't make any sense at all. But
so you use your like chords with one finger as opposed to two.
It's really easy to play, and it's really fun. And I didn't get it at first; it was really hard. And then I knew I was getting it when I started to dream in 3-string. Like I would, like I remember going, "Oh fuck!" I just woke up from having a dream of playing these songs. So,
is it? I mean, it seems so unique to that band. Are other bands doing that, or is it just like something that they've invented and they just ran with?
Well, Chris was in a band with the guy from a band called Morphine before Morphine existed. He was in a band with Mark Sandman, and Mark. In Morphine, Mark played 2-string long scale bass, but he played it with a slide. And when he and Chris were in a band early on, they kind of made up these tunings. They would do whole made up shows where they didn't even have a set list or any songs, and they would go play. They would just make up music on the spot. So doing weird stuff was kind of in Chris's DNA by that point, I think. And so the Presidents was just, he wanted to do a 3-string, 2-string band so that both instruments sounded like one instrument together. And that's really all it is, because his is tuned to the same pitch, except it has one bass string, so a 60 and a 36, and then you have these fat guitar strings on the other guitar, and they're both tuned to the same pitch. It's not an octave lower or anything like a regular bass.
Nice.
It's bizarre.
Yeah, and that was a good run you did with them. And then, so, like, that was like, I say, you're the very first person that gave me ever a live photo pass for a concert. It was really
I did not know that.
Yeah.
And look where you are now. Holy shit.
But
thank you, Andrew. Yeah.
So then part of that, like,
oh yeah,
when you were
well, it helps that he's good at it.
But here's another thing you're good at. A lot of people may not know just from your like regular music fans, but you're an avid dirt biker, part of the Armour Historic Racing Society, and I'd always go and watch you race, and those were a blast. And so your sister lived up on the hill above one of the greatest vintage national tracks that we ever had. Now that track in Chehalis is gone, I know.
That was the greatest race. So yeah, it was like a place to hang out.
Yeah, we'd stay there the night before the races, which was a mistake usually, but.
Oh god, I never really raced hungover until I started hanging out with you guys the night before.
Yeah, hanging out with Brian, you do a lot of things hungover.
But that was so probably growing up on the farm. Like, let's go back again. Your dirt bike history. Yeah. Probably back in the farm, you probably had like a little 70 roaming around the property.
You know what? I didn't. No. My parents didn't. I wanted one really bad. I dreamed about it, but no, I didn't have one.
Okay, so when did you kind of grab the interest in the motorcycles?
Well, it was always there since I was a little kid. But I have to give credit where credit is due. Ron Heathman and I shared a love of motorcycles, and one day when he wasn't on tour and I was around, he had a BMW street bike, and he was like, "Hey, you want to go for a ride?" And so we went out for a ride. This must have been in about 1996 or something. So we went for a ride, rode around all day, and then wound up back at his place. And he said, "Hey, I just got the reissue videotape of On Any Sunday. Do you want to watch it?" Which was the Steve McQueen financed, motorcycle movie that came out in 1971. And so the two of us sat and watched it, and I went away from it just thinking, because I'd seen it maybe when I was a kid or bits and pieces of it, or maybe I saw the second one. I don't know. I knew sort of about it and everything, but it reminded me how much I loved those old dirt bikes and how much when I was a little kid I wanted to have one. So that kind of got me going. And I went out and started just like finding old dirt bikes, and then I found some guys that were racing them, and then went out and it just got yeah, it just never ended.
Guitars and motorcycle, two addictions, and
that's all I really give a shit about.
Yeah. Right. And that was cool. I mean, it was always fun just watching you race and stuff. And then, to know like people that are race fanatics, to know how cool it is that Dick Mann built a bike for you. I mean,
yeah, that was cool. Yeah. He was always around at the races. He'd help lay out the tracks, and I of course knew who he was, and he's in on any Sunday, and a legend and everything. But it wasn't until I found that old carcass of a BSA and sent it off to him that we really became a little, close enough to.
Yeah.
So another recurring theme on the show with the guest is, you gave him his first photo pass and set him off on this wonderful world that I get to ride his coattails. I mean, we've been doing this shit together for like 13 years. And all the musicians that he knows and loves are such good, nice people. And so I didn't know you all that well, and you opened your home in San Diego. We came down and used your home as a base for this great Southern California trip we did. And we went out in the desert to shoot pictures of you. Like Kaz was like, "Oh, we're going to recreate this Steve McQueen Sports Illustrated cover." And I'm like, I don't know that cover. I didn't know what that was.
Funniest thing,
and then we went out there, and like, holy shit, it was just so much fun. It was so hot out there, and you guys pulled it off. It looked so cool. That was
we're gonna have the pictures. I'll scroll through.
I mean, that was such a
people
fun.
Will be able to see that.
And then like to have Dusty Watson there, and he's like, "Oh shit, I'll get on a bike and I'll ride around." I that was so much fun. I mean, I loved it.
Yeah, that was a fun day. That was such a Rambo mission too, just trying to find somewhere we could go. It's so funny that it's so hard to find a spot, but it gets that where
we still have the spots down here like Burnt Ridge or but we're running out of spaces for people to ride motorcycles anymore.
Well, since then I've found a lot of places to ride in Southern California. My buddies and I, there's lots of riding. You just got to go out to it.
Find it.
And it's not. Maybe it isn't as easy as it was in the mid '70s or the '60s or the '50s or something. But there's places to ride. You just got to go there.
Yeah, that's got to lead us up to. So we were going to have you play a show. You started the Andrew McKeag band. We're going to have you show up here. Unfortunately, it wasn't a vicious wreck, but
that's right. Yeah, that was
punctured the lungs, broke the ribs.
Oh, that doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, it sucked.
But then, so then after that, we're going to do a benefit show. Fielder was going to come down, but then COVID hit. So.
Oh, Christ, that's right.
Now you're breaking his heart, bringing up these sad memories here.
But it's kind of leading up to here, as a musician, that's the one industry just skidded to a halt. A lot of people struggled through that. I mean, you were busy throughout that, getting the Andrew McKeag band up going, and
no, I was fun. I honestly I was just thinking about that because I set up a rehearsal to try and get going again with the solo shit, and I came home from work today because I work at a motorcycle shop, and I was thinking about it on the drive home. I was like, oh man, I've been at this a couple of years now, and it's all started because of COVID ending the music biz. Because I didn't just work as a guitar player, I was working as a production manager and as a TM and as a whatever, like driving around in a quad at stadium shows, delivering stuff. I mean, I'm just whatever work you could get with Live Nation or whatever with venues. So when that all ended, I didn't know what to do, and so I rattled around the house for a while before calling my friend who's owned this motorcycle dealership for a long time, and I just said, "Dude, is there anything I could do?" and I wound up getting a gig there that I do both, and so I'm kind of like freakily working in my hobby industry, which is bizarre. But
right. It's like you're still not out of the industry now. You know, you're, like I said, you're
both,
because you're that musician's musician. Now here you're guitar teching for Ben Harper.
I was, yeah. Now I'm leaving on Sunday for a Ringo Starr tour.
Oh, geez.
And how bad is that, huh?
Yeah, no. Yeah, me and Musburger.
Yeah.
They're working together. Yeah.
Who's going to be on this? Are you allowed to say who's going to be on this leg of it?
Yeah. It's Ringo, of course. And then he's got. I'll be working for the Men at Work singer
Colin
Hay, and the dude from Average White Band. So those guys are on stage left. Hamish is his name, and then I'll just be looking after their stuff.
That's cool. So it's neat that you're still in the industry. Yeah, you've grown so many cool relationships. We used to tour manage the Hendrix Experience tour. You and Zakk Wylde became really good friends. And
spent a lot of time sitting on the bus laughing at stuff that he would say. That's for sure.
Yeah. And so like it's really neat that you're still, you know, deep in the industry with all that, you know. And are you going to get the Andrew McKeag band going back again, or?
I think I am. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I like I said, I set up a rehearsal. Even though I'm leaving again for a month, but we're going to rehearse tomorrow night. It's a different bass player and drummer now, but
sure.
And you're
good
not,
dudes. Players.
You're not the only musician in the family. You've got a son that's a musician too.
Oh, little ripper.
How's that? I mean, as a father, what's it like to see your son like play on stage and just kick ass?
It's cool.
Yeah.
He's frighteningly comfortable up there.
He looks like a cool rocker. I mean, I remember doing pictures of you guys when like he was 4 years old. Now he's, how old is he now? 21? 20. 20. Yeah.
20.
Crazy.
Yeah, he puts a lot of effort in the look.
And he looks cool. He looks like a rocker. He looks like something that could be in the helicopters or something like that, you know?
I know. He's really into the Grateful Dead right now, which we're all trying to get through together.
Yeah, a little more distortion on that guitar, son. But it's kind of neat, you know, like Dan Siegel is real supportive of his son doing shows and stuff. And he had his first big gig opening for Al Jardine, you know, and it's like, for a parent, that's kind of cool to see for your son to, you know, open for Al Jardine of the Beach Boys or whatnot, you know, and
it's so cool. It's so fun watching them turn into the people that they are. And Henry's, you know, like I said, he's really comfortable on stage and he's fearless about just winging it. He'll do a 3-hour gig without batting an eye. He doesn't like, the old man needs to like arrange everything and think about, you know, and he just doesn't care. He'll just go for it. And he knows a lot of songs and he doesn't let the little problems get him down. It's fun. He just did 2 days in the studio this week.
Nice.
Recorded a bunch of songs. Yeah.
So is he fronting his own band? Is that?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what's the band called?
They're called Saguaro.
Saguaro.
Like
The Cactus, yes.
Ah, that's awesome.
And then you also do something that has a really special place in my heart. I am such a sucker for the yacht rock. You got a little yacht rock band, huh? Are you guys still doing it?
This friend of mine, who used to be the guy that covered amps for Satellite, this Matt Gorney, I heard through Adam, the Satellite Amps guy, Adam said, hey, Gorney's in a yacht rock band. And he was getting a giggle out of it. And I was like, I want to be in a yacht rock band. I love those songs. I mean, I have such a soft spot for all that stuff. And I got in it and wound up doing it for, I don't know, I guess I started in 2018. So I did a lot of gigs and learned a lot of music. And then as soon as you take off on the road and stuff and do touring gigs, you lose a lot of the home gigs because they get subs. And so I think, I still get a call to go do them every once in a while, and it's so fun. Yeah. I love it. I love that music. I'm such a sucker for it. You know?
That's
all
awesome.
Those classics.
Oh, it's great. You know, like the old Christopher Cross stuff and Air Supply.
I mean, it's all just right.
Climax Blues Band.
Yeah.
It's hard music to play.
Yeah, it is. I mean, everything about it has to be just right. You know, that it's, but yeah, it's like, and, you know, the vocals are the harmonizing, all that stuff. It's fun to listen to. I could never try something like that. But
Kaz, I think you'd be great at it.
No. I couldn't, you know, the one thing I miss is your old Fixer gig. So huge Humble Pie fan. And like I say, not only guitar, but you're an excellent singer, you know, and that's what Ken and I from the Bronx were talking about the other day. He was just like, God, Andrew's such a great guitarist, such a great frontman, such a great singer. I go, yeah, everything, you know, and it's just like, kind of, I have somewhere on my iPod your Fixer show. And I still listen to that. Yeah. You, Kurt Block, and Ron Heathman, and Scott?
Yeah, and Ron and Scott Giampino, yeah. That was fun. That was like one time. Did you come to the one when we opened for UFO?
I did not. I called you the next day, though. There was the Ron issue.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, the gig itself was great, and I still remember where, you know, because we could play for 45 minutes and do like 4 songs. I mean, the jams were just immense, like long solo sections and stuff. And I remember being in the middle of one of those tunes and looking over, and the show, or the whatever that gig was, it was
a Numos.
Yeah, Numos.
Yeah,
Numos. The doorway to the downstairs backstage area was off to the left, and I looked over, and I could see all 4 of the guys from UFO stacked up with their heads peeking through the door, watching, like intently watching what we were doing. And I didn't know. I mean, we just got put on the gig because I think the promoter, Dan Steinberg, he knew us and knew Scott, and was like, oh, this would be funny. Let's put those guys on here. But when we got off stage, those guys were like, Humble Pie was our favorite band, and Andy Parker, the drummer, said, I've got Jerry Shirley's old drum kit, the white, Premier or what. Anyway, so there was this like meeting of the minds backstage, you know, where we're talking, and then Phil Moog from UFO, the singer, he goes, Andrew, I got to ask you a question. Why do you have a Humble Pie cover band? He's like, don't get me wrong. It's like our favorite music, and we loved those guys when we were kids, and we were so happy. We would love to have you play every show of this tour with us. But why did you do this?
I always tell people, you know, I get that little music talk amongst friends, and I'll sit there and just kind of do the old aloof. Dude, Steve Marriott's the best, you know? Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're going to talk like guitarist, singer, man, that guy was just amazing. And it's like...
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, unbeatable. And so kinetic and energized. And, I mean, from everything I've heard, terrible to be in a room with.
Right.
Just the most annoying guy ever. But
he was like 5'4". He was a little dude. He really was. If that, I watched the documentary and read the book, and he sounded like he was kind of yeah.
Well, they were all pretty small. I mean, it was like, it was one of those funny things, you know, when they got Ian McLaughlin in the band and into the Small Faces. McLaughlin, they all laughed because they were all actually the same height. They were all little guys.
Right.
So, like, it was perfect.
That's great. I mean, there's like certain, if you're going to like sit there and like name off those great influences that you had as like a guitarist singer, you know, it'd probably be like Steve Marriott, and which other ones that kind of influenced you to want to be a singer and guitarist?
Yeah, for me, it was all that 70s, 60s and 70s hard rock. And you know, but then getting older, when I started listening to like Black Flag and the Dead Kennedys and the UK Subs and just kick-ass punk rock, then there's that whole kind of world, you know, of stuff that I like and care about. And but growing up, it was you know, I loved ELO, and I loved the Knack, and I loved AC/DC, and I love Angel City and like,
Oh, shit, yeah.
you know what I mean? If it got played on FM rock radio and it wasn't Styx, I liked it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if someone wants to see something really cool that Andrew had, he sent me a video. It's on YouTube, but Uncle Joe's Big Old Driver, they do some reunion shows every so often. You set up your camera, you guys were in the studio, and you did the Dead Boys Sonic Reducer. And you
that was
fucking
my phone.
nailed it. And it was so awesome. I'm sure you're just typing Uncle Joe's Big Old Driver, Sonic Reducer, and it's just so
funny,
rad.
Dude. I don't think I've ever posted it. It was so funny that exists because I was like, let's do Sonic Reducer. So we did it, and I was like, that was really good. Let's do it one more time. And I recorded it with the phone. That was a long time ago, too.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing. I got to watch that. I don't think I've seen that.
Oh, it's cool. It's so cool.
Yeah,
dude.
the other thing that the performance that you threw together, or whoever threw it together, were you and Marky from Zeke, and you came down to Olympia
and John Marathon.
Yeah, and played a tiny show, like for 100 people at our local watering hole. That was just one of the most amazing shows. And
that was really fun, and it was so fun to play with Marky because I'd never gotten to play with him before, and I've always admired his abilities, and he's a rad dude, and we both love motorcycles, and we're both friends with Kaz. Like,
I got, you know what? Really, and so I've remodeled the house, so I have beds for everybody. So that used to be, I remember you're like, hey, Kaz, the only problem with your house, we're all done here at 3 a.m. You really don't have a place for us to crash, like beside a
There's really
chair.
nowhere to sleep.
It's all fixed, so.
Well, see, I am the overflow. I'm waiting for.
Well, it wasn't like I was going to kick Xander out of the bed. Xander get through him, you know?
Right. But, you know, I'm thinking wintertime comes again. Think we get that gig back together for a show?
I'd love to. Of course. Yeah, that would be super fun.
And, you know, I have that original recording and stuff. And Evan Foster's like, you know what? I bought him lunch a few weeks ago. He's like, what? You know what? I'll master that for you. And I'll hook you up with that. I would love to press that on vinyl. It's warts and all. It was fun.
Go nuts. Go nuts.
All right. Well, speaking of going nuts, this is where we ask our guests 5 questions with Kaz and Shay. Are you ready?
Sure. Hit me.
I got them here, and they're my terrible handwriting, so I'll read them this
Please
time.
do,
okay.
yeah.
All right, Andrew, what's the best concert you've ever been to?
Iggy Pop, 1987, at the Starry Night in Portland, Oregon.
Wow. Okay.
It remains in my mind the greatest show ever. It was one of those spur of the moment things where you just go to a show with a friend and he's like, has an extra ticket or whatever. And maybe I paid the $15. I don't know how much it was, but I just went in. I had a cast on my right hand from skateboarding catastrophe. I went straight to the front. I never left all night. At some point during 5'1", Iggy reached down and grabbed me by the hand like this and sang the whole song with the microphone in one hand and my casted wrist in the other.
If you had a Sharpie for him to sign that cast.
It was so cool. And the band was so good. He was so kick-ass. And I think the first time you see Iggy Pop, it was a good time for him. It was a good record for him, I think. And and just such an insanely great show. I don't know how foul you can be on your show.
Very foul.
Yeah.
It's encouraged.
He's halfway through the gig, and I think he pulls off his leather jacket because he actually came out clothed, which was surprising. But he says, "Portland," he goes, "You make my dick hard."
That is very Iggy.
Everyone, you know, I'm hoping that everyone in the music fan or industry has seen Iggy at least once. I saw the Stooges with Mike Watt on bass, and then we saw Iggy with the
Post-Pop Depression tour with Josh Homme's band. That was amazing. Okay, question number 2. And we've already talked to you like yacht rock and stuff, so your music's pretty wide, but fill in the blank. People would be surprised that you listen to...
I have a soft spot for sort of trancey, early 90s, like Massive Attack, anything in that genre, you know.
Would that be like a Spaceman 3 type thing, or that were
Spaceman 3, Spiritualized, all that stuff. My Bloody Valentine. It's like my favorites. It's the thing I always go to. Like I've got a 600 song playlist that keep just of that kind of shit because it soothes my soul.
Awesome. All right. Next up, your house is on fire. Let's hope this doesn't happen, but your house is on fire. What's the one album you run back in to save?
Jesus. Standing on the Verge of Getting It On. Funkadelic.
Okay.
Not Maggot Brain, huh?
I like Maggot Brain, but Standing on the Verge of Getting It On is the greatest 7 songs ever.
Yeah.
I think
okay. I have Maggot Brain, but I don't have that one.
I know.
Yeah.
I need it now.
We're going to both order. We're going to end this interview and we're going to order it. Is it widely available? Are we going to be able to find it?
Of course. Yeah. And in fact, I used to just get it for people. It's like, you know how you do that with books or whatever?
Yeah.
You're like, I'm just going to have one of these around and give away. Yeah.
Nice.
It's kind of like every time I go to a record store, I'll see that Jackson Browne running on empty. It's like, everyone needs this album. Here, I bought it for $4. You should try this one out.
Okay. You win the lottery. Who plays your retirement/celebration party?
Can they be alive or dead? It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It's your show. It's whatever you want.
Oh, man. It's a really hard. That's a really difficult thing to figure out. I mean, I'm gonna say Little Richard.
Okay.
But I'm gonna say Little Richard with the New Orleans band, like with the guys that were on those first few records, because I don't think there'd be anything more entertaining at a party than Little Richard.
Right.
Sure. Okay, and the last one. When Lemmy greets you at the pearly gates, what's he going to say?
Surprise.
Have you had some interactions with Lemmy before? Did you ever get to meet him?
One time, yeah, we were at me and Ben London, my buddy from Seattle. We were at this record industry convention thing. What the fuck? I can't. No, it was a promoters thing, the Polestar conference. Yeah, and there's this hotel right off of Hollywood Boulevard, the Millennium something or other, and it's got this round room. The suite, whatever the fuck it is, at the top of the hotel has got this windows that look out on the Hollywood Hills, so it looks kind of west. And Ben and I went to this party, and the party was in the giant penthouse suite, and so we go to this party, and it's like 7 p.m. on a Thursday night or something. And we walk, and there's really like 10 people there milling around, and then there's 20 people, and then there's 30 people, and then Lemmy walks in, and it's just Lemmy by himself. He's wearing white leather boots, white pants, and a white leather jacket. And he walks in, and it's like, it's a hotel suite. So there's a couple of bedrooms somewhere, and then there's this main room, and there's like some food and drinks and stuff. But Lemmy goes straight to the kitchen, and he's just looking for the whiskey. And he finds a bottle of Jack Daniels and asks if we want a drink. And that's really that was the end of the story, really. We were just like, holy shit, I think we just had a drink with Lemmy, and then that was it,
That's perfect. That's a perfect story.
But yeah, then the party got crowded, and then it kind of bogus, and we split. But yeah, Lemmy was there. Yeah.
Well, let's ask you, what was one of your most favorite interactions you had with a musician? Like, you've had so many of them. And
I've had a lot, but it's not because I was a musician usually. It's because of other jobs that I had around the edges of it, working in the museum or whatever. But there was one time, so we did this tribute to Sun Records at the museum, which then the guy that ran the Montreux Jazz Festival wanted to bring to Europe or to do at the festival in Switzerland, in Montreux. And so we went over there and we did a week's rehearsals and then the show at the end of the week. And it was an amazing house band with all these incredible players. Chris Spedding playing guitar, the Brian Setzer guys with the rhythm section. It was insane. Brian May was got up and did some songs, and Bill Wyman and the Rhythm Kings played on the show. And but Jimmy Page and Robert Plant were on this thing, and I got to watch them rehearse. And there's no one else around, you know. And at one point, Kim and I we had our daughter with us, Emma, and she was like 18 months old. And we were about to leave to go walk around the festival for a little bit and get something to eat or whatever. And Robert and Jimmy were walking out, and they're like, "Oh, can we go with you?" And so our family, including Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, went for a walk around the festival grounds and just chatting and talking, you know, about random shit. And I can't remember how it came up, but I remember going down this set of stairs, and Robert Plant was asking me if I liked Black Sabbath. And I was like, "Well, yeah, I like Black Sabbath." He's like, "You do?" And I was like, "Yeah, I like Black Sabbath." He goes, "I just never understood how anyone could like Black Sabbath."
Yeah, I would be almost afraid to answer. Like, what's the right answer here? What does he want you to say? You know?
I just figured, fuck it, I'll just tell him. Yeah, it was great.
Oh, that's funny. And you know, like when I was with the Songs, we opened for Robert Plant.
Oh, yeah.
And talk about, like you say, the nicest guy. He would come to the dressing room every night. And I've listened to him on that Rick Rubin podcast, but talk about a guy that knows everything about every recorded music history, you know?
Oh, yeah, and he knows all the labels and all that stuff.
Because the crazy thing is, you know, you guys would do those president shows in Seattle over President's Day weekend. And on his podcast, he was talking about Spider John Corner.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how would Robert Plant know that little guy that played in a bar stool in Boston, you know? But he knows so much about music. It's crazy.
Yeah, he was a real student of that stuff. I think, you know, like any good obsessive, when you're young and you got lots of time, you know, you have a lot of information. And all those British blues guys were like that, all those rock and roll guys. Yeah.
Kaz, let's wrap this up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Andrew, we can't thank you enough. I'm getting choked up. It's been so emotional having you here. I don't want to cry on camera.
Still Linus looking over your shoulder.
Oh, isn't that awesome?
Yeah. How about a picture of Andrew in his hat? I love it.
And we're going to have a bunch of photos of you throughout this podcast that I've taken over the years of you live. And,
right on.
Yeah, I can't thank you enough for getting me my start. You know, I owe a lot to you and Heathman.
And thank you for everything that this has allowed me to do with Kaz. It's been so great.
Oh, no, thanks to you guys. And Kaz for, I mean, always a tireless supporter of the rock and roll arts.
You got to be. Yep. It's a busy job, but, well, good luck on your tour with Ringo. And,
thanks, man.
Hope to see some more beautiful photos of all the venues like you did with Ben Harper. So.
Yeah.
Do our official outro, Kaz.
Okay. I'm Kaz.
Buddy.
And I'm Shay, and thanks for watching another episode of For the Record with Kaz and Shay. Thanks, Andrew. Peace.
Later.